So we are going backwards. We just recently went over New Mutants 32, and that's kind of leading up to the next story arc. But I got this one in the mail, so we're going to dive over New Mutants issue 30 today. And this kind of focuses on this gladiatorial pit that is recruiting young, strong mutants to battle one another. And Danny, Rain, and all them have an inkling who this mob boss is. So that's kind of what we're building up to. But let's go ahead and dive into this one. The print date on this book was August 1985. The creators were Stan Lee Presents, Chris Claremont writing, Bill Sienkiewicz art, Joe Rosen doing the lettering, Glynis Oliver colorist and Nasanti editor, Jim Shooter editor and chief. And I love how it says New Mutants stars. That's just awesome. So the title of this book is The Singer and Her Song. And I wish that Bill Sienkiewicz would have stayed on New Mutants longer than he did, because even though I love Bob McLeod and all the subsequent artists and whatnot that come since then, including Rob Liefeld, this era, and someone brought it up in the comments, I can't remember what your name is, and I apologize for it, but I definitely agree that during this era, New Mutants was more like a teen horror comic, and that was just so awesome. And you really start to feel that shift change when Legion came onto the scene, along with the Demon Bear arc, where you just kind of get that horror feeling dread. And then Illyana basically being the queen of hell. And that's kind of what happens here. It says, there's a place beyond space and time where none of the rules of reality apply. It is called Limbo. Its ruler is a 15-year-old mutant with the face of an angel and at least part of the soul of a devil incarnate. Her name is Illyana Rasputin. Moments ago in Los Angeles, an entity known as the Beyonder called forth that part of her which she has always kept hidden and fought with all her strength to deny. Now, thanks to him, she has become the Dark Child, who will someday bring about Armageddon, the obliteration of her world and all its people. This I promise I could talk. I just haven't had enough coffee. All right, let's get back into it. This revelation proved more than she could bear, and so in her madness and terror, she fled here to Limbo, taking with her 4 fellow mutants: Kitty Pryde, her best friend, Sam Girthy, Allison Blair the Dazzler, and Rachel Summers. So, like I said, this is essentially a Secret Wars tie-in, and I've never read the original Secret Wars other than, what was it, issue 8, where Spider-Man gets the symbiote. I eventually do want to go back and read that in its entirety, but trying to get the singles, maybe. I'm not too much of a trade reader anymore. I love being able to sit down with individual issues and just talk about it like this. Now, look at this. I love the unconventional artwork here, where rather than just getting a normal, now don't get me wrong, this is John Byrne, absolutely beautiful, sets the tone, gorgeous looking artwork, but Sienkiewicz just, with his painting, always gave you this otherworldly feeling, which is what this book needed. And I mean, look at the way how Illyana's face here is screaming in pain, fighting with her own demons, seeing the New Mutants trying to battle back at her, but they are failing. Look at the way Sam is just screaming in agony. Now it's their turn to scream in shock, disbelief, terror, agony, as easily and cruelly as she does the landscape around them, as their teammates twist their bodies. Enough, Illyana. You've had your tantrum. And Kitty just straight up stills her soul sword. And I love how she goes, "Gimme, roommate." What the? It's silver again, blazing with Edric fire. And I'm wearing her armor. This is crazy. I'm no sorceress. How can this be happening? Heck, I'll worry about it later. The sword disrupts any arcane enchantment or being. Let's hope it can return Illyana to normal. And so she just straight up chops right into Illyana. And it doesn't really explain it here, and I'm not sure if they ever really touch on this again, but my best guess why Kitty can do this is whenever, I can't remember what issue of Uncanny X-Men it is, but where Illyana actually goes to Limbo, and then she's back a few minutes later, and then that's where the Magic and Storm miniseries came from. Our main X-Men returned from Limbo, but there's like this like alternate reality X-Men that stayed in Limbo, and the only survivors that weren't slain by what was his name? I can't remember his name, but the ruler of hell at the time was Kitty and Storm. And Kitty was like a half demon cat in in that reality. So I'm wondering if that reality Kitty somehow is twisting with this one because of the same DNA match. That would be my best guess. But nonetheless, to see Kitty do that was just weird. And Sam's like, you saved a shadow cat and cured Ileana? Yeah, Sam, sure. Of the symptoms, the outward manifestation, but not the disease itself. The cancer that's trying to rot her soul and may have infected mine. This is another one of the you owe me Beyonder. You took away the man I loved. Remember, that was how we got the Kitty Wolverine miniseries, because Colossus had a wife on the Secret Wars world or whatever, War World. And she goes, and now you've deliberately hurt my best friend. I don't care anymore who or what you are, or you're going to make, or what it costs you are going to pay. And so that's about the amount of the Secret Wars time we get, but it's freaking intense. So the rest of the story here is like the New Mutants trying to figure out who they can contact because the X-Men have been taken to War World. So at this moment in time, the only mutants are this young team. And so what they're wanting to do now is, Allison's is saying, Kitty, I learned what you need to know by infiltrating the gladiators. A generous offer, but you're not trained for this sort of work. I am. You quit the gladiators. You nearly put them out of business. Why should they trust you? It's too risky, Daz. It's better I go in your place. And she's thinking, you don't trust me either, Kitty. You suspect I'll be swayed by old loyalties and friendships and betray you, but I won't. I know, I just have to prove how. And then this is where we go into the gladiator pit, and we see that Magma and Bobby are essentially gladiators, and they're trying to survive because if you don't compete, you die. And so there's a whole lot of agony and whatnot going on in this issue. We have Rachel fighting against the Beyonder. We have Allison with this faux addiction thing or gang. I guess you kind of look at it as like an afternoon special where Dazzler's feeling drawn to go back to the arena because she got her dopamine kicks there being able to perform. We have Ileana fighting with her inner demons. There's just a whole lot going on in this issue. Allison decides to go against Kitty's suggestion and goes back to the gladiators. He goes, we figured we'd never see you again. How'd you find us? Why'd you come? Now listen to this, and this is what I mean by kind of like a quote-unquote afternoon special. Listen, and this was brought up in a lot of those type of shows. I couldn't make it on the outside. I've nowhere else to go. You're my friends. I missed you. In our life as well, I bet. I wish I could lie, Ivik, and say that it wasn't true. So right there, she comes back into the gladiators, and this is where we see the silhouette of the main baddie. And I love how it goes, splendid. You blithely doth a former slave once more don her chains. Champagne! And we realize that whoever this is not a nice person. I mean, it just kind of reminds me of, what was his name in Inspector Gadget? It wasn't Dr. Doom, Dr. Claw or whatever. I always just saw that hand. And I just love the shadows. So Kitty realizes Dazzler did something stupid, goes in to infiltrate her to save her. And here, she stands atop a pillar, center stage, towering over the arena. Below in the shadow, gladiators fight for their lives. Dazzler doesn't notice. She doesn't seem to care. The crowd falls silent, not knowing what to expect, wondering with eager anticipation what she'll do. Because remember, once she started the X-Men, she didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to perform anymore. So she has that craving, that jonesing. And then the music starts, a hard, driving, heavy metal beat, and she begins to sing from her heart and gut and soul. And with the colors come light of all intensities and more colors than there are words to describe them. A phantasmagoric stardown that drives audiences and gladiators both into a physical and emotional frenzy. One song rips into another as Dazzler pushes herself to her limit and then beyond, taking all that power and energy and hurling it back at the combatants on the arena floor. They never know what hit them. To a man they drop, stunned, unconscious. Dazzler's triumphant, and the crowd roars. Now listen to her mindset. She goes, I did it. I won. I wasn't scared. I couldn't hold back. Ivik was right. This is where I belong. This is my home. So now we see that loyalties are starting to become strained here. Because Kitty's going in to save her friends. Allison's is given into her addiction. And it's just an overall great issue, seeing how everybody's trying to survive with everything that is going on, the choices that need to be made, the consequences that happen because of it. I highly recommend this run of the New Mutants. Excellent read, and when we find out who the big baddie is, it just makes it all that more emotional and intense. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and grab this issue or this whole era of New Mutants. I couldn't recommend it more than you guys have heard me gush about it. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next subscribe, that way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.